pride versus your surrender. I struggle with lust and gluttony. Kind of learned is that, I need to stop trying to control things on my own, but yet give it to God. Welcome to the very first episode of One Thing That I Learned This Week. And every episode, I am going to just talk to you guys about one thing that I learned throughout the week. And I want to share with you guys and hope that it's meaningful enough that you guys may learn something from it too. So this week's episode is going to consist of two things, and it's going to be about pride versus your surrender. What brought this topic to mind for me was I was having a discussion with a pastor that comes to my gym, and he was pointing out things that were underlying in my life that I never realized. And there was just things that had me reflect on myself and things that I was doing wrong. And it's just underlying things that you can't see unless someone points it out to you yourself. So basically where this all stems from was he was kind of asking me a series of questions of like where I struggle and things like that, things of that nature. And I was telling him about it, and he was pointing out areas of my life that I could definitely improve on. So the two biggest things, and I'm always very vulnerable about it, is I struggle with lust and gluttony, as a young 20-year-old man. And he said, well, those two things come down to a very underlying issue, which is pride. And ultimately, I never thought about it like that. I was looking at it too much of face value. But where this kind of gets more interesting at and tricky is that those two things come down to of like a sense of I'm going to go to food for comfort, or I'm going to go to pornography for comfort, or sexual desires for comfort, instead of giving those things to God. I never did that. I always try to take control of things on my own, and I try to handle things on my own, and that's not the correct approach whatsoever. And that's kind of like where our discussion lied, was I have a pride issue, and I need to allow God to work in my life to fix not only my pride, but the series of problems that I have. And I never looked at it like that. I never looked at it that, okay, maybe it's a pride problem. Maybe it's, okay, I need to go to God for these problems rather than always trying to fix these things myself. And that's what I struggled with. So whenever I'm having these struggles, which I still do, I'm not perfect whatsoever, I still struggle with pride and lust and gluttony. And instead of kind of like going to God, I go to God, ask for forgiveness. But when I go to God, I'm not allowing him to take control over those things in my life. I'm trying to deal with those things on my own. And I guess it was just kind of a lack of understanding. It's like I didn't realize to really deal with those things was to kind of go give it to God. I was kind of trying to just deal with everything on my own. And then when I did fall short, I would, ask for forgiveness. And I don't think that's the correct way to do it whatsoever. So what I kind of learned is that, I need to stop trying to control things on my own, but yet give it to God instead. And I think that's probably where a lot of us fall short at is, as we go on throughout our week, as we go throughout our day, our month, whatever, the problems we have, we try to deal with them on our own. And you can't carry that burden on your own. That's why you need, a community, a structure, people around you to hold you accountable to the things that you say that you're going to do. It doesn't even have to be religious. It can be just everyday life things like, eating better or eating cleaner or exercising more or laying off bad habits. You need somebody around you to really hold you accountable to those things, because it's hard, it's heavy to carry all those things alone. And I think it makes a drastic difference when people around you are pushing you to do better. So that's kind of the big takeaway from this week's message. And I know it's going to be short and kind of sweet, but when you struggle, have someone kind of point things out for you, because they may help you see things that you didn't see yourself before. To be honest, I'm tired of handling things on my own. So I kind of want to like give you guys a verse that helps me and may also help you. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6. And I'm going to read it off my phone because I can't remember it exactly. It says, placing things in God's hands equal peace. That's kind of just summing it up. That's not the verse itself, but that's summing it up, is placing your troubles, placing your problems into God's hands. It will undeniably give you peace through it all. But placing this in God's hands doesn't mean that I stop trying or I stop working. It means that I stop worrying about it myself. It takes a lot of the weight off my shoulders, realizing that, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm always going to fall short, but I have someone here that is going to help me, is going to help me defeat these issues or overcome them. And that's where we kind of need to let go of our sense of pride and kind of hand it over to him. So if you're listening, maybe that's something that you've kind of had a grip on, or kind of had a grip on you throughout your life. And this is kind of my message to you, to let go of those addictions, let go of those things, and kind of place it into God's hands rather than trying to fight it all yourself. Give it to God and allow him to work through you to remove those things out of your life. I was just in that situation, and I still am, kind of, where I'm trying to do all these things, battle all these things on my own rather than handing it to God, handing it to the creator of the universe. So that's what I kind of encourage you guys to do on your own. And this is the big takeaway, is pride versus surrender. You got to let go of your pride and surrender yourself to God. And that's really hard in our generation, but it's going to leave you with the utmost benefit. This concludes the very first episode, and I thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.